Good afternoon, everybody. Phil Simons with Columbia Grain here in your Friday afternoon weekly grain market recap. Well, we did wrap up the week, the end of the quarter as well, and we did have a pretty big report to digest here today. So let's go ahead and dive right into the numbers, and I'm going to share my screen with you in just a minute here. But we did have the quarterly stocks report number come out this morning, along with the planning intentions report. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to dive right into it again. But once we navigate to our favorite website, columbiagrain.com, and we navigate to the upper right-hand corner to the Producer Solutions tab. Again, right in the middle of the page where we have the latest USDA charts, that is where we house all of this data. So if we take a look at where the March 31st report and the numbers that were actually released this morning, I'm going to blow it up a little bit more here so we can take a look at it a little easier. But again, when we take a look at the top of the page, we start with the March 1st U.S. grain stocks. We start out with corn. And so the March number for endings for quarterly grain stocks for corn came in at 7.4 billion bushels. When we compare that to last year, we can see that we were actually down 5% from where we were last year at this time. And when we look at where the average trade estimate came in at was 7.47 billion bushels. So slightly below where the average trade guess was coming in pre-report as well. Next, if we take a look at soybeans, the quarterly stocks for soybeans came in at 1.685 billion bushels. When we look at that compared to last year, we're actually down 13% from where we were last year at this time, and where the average estimate had it coming in at 1.742 billion. So down below the last year's number and the pre-report estimates as well. When we take a look at wheat up next, we can see that the quarterly stocks were 946 million bushels. Which was down 8% if we look at the year-on-year change. But if we look at the average estimate, it was actually a little bit above where the actual average estimate pre-report had wheat coming in at. The other thing to look at here, the bigger of the two to digest, is going to be the prospective planning report for new crop. So when we look at that, when we look at corn to begin, once again, the March number came in at 91.9 million acres. So call it 92 million acres of corn potentially for this coming year. When we look at that and compare it to the year-on-year change, we do see a 4% increase over the numbers that we had last year. So a pretty decent jump for potential corn plantings as we look forward to new crop here. Look at soybeans up next. The number came in at 87.5 million acres. Really not a change at all from last year's number. And let's see, slightly down from where the average trade estimate had the numbers coming in pre-report. So again, just another reason to see why soybeans had a little bit of a pop to close the week out here today after digesting some of these numbers. Next up, when we take a look at the all wheat class, all wheat actually came in higher than the average estimate by close to a million acres. All wheat came in at 49.8 million acres. And we look at how that compares to last year, we're actually up 9%. And then if we take a look at the other classes of wheat, when we see all winter wheat up 13% from last year, spring wheat down 2%, and then durum up 9% in terms of potential prospective plantings for the coming year anyway. So really, that was the big meat and potatoes of the report that came out here today. Again, when we take a look and digest it a little bit further to say, well, how does this compare to really recent history? When we look at U.S. planting intentions for corn, we can see that the 5-year average is at just over 90 million acres. And where we came in last year was at 88.6 million. The Ag Forum in February was at 91, and then today's number was 91.9. So just call it 92 million acres. So a little bit higher than what we were originally thinking. When we take a look at soybeans and drill down a little bit further on that as well, the 5-year average for planting is at 84.6 million acres in the U.S. And really, when we look at what the numbers were pre-report, along with the February, the Ag Forum, it really did come right on path with what the expectations were. Wheat, on the other hand, again, did come in a little bit higher than where the numbers had it pre-report. And when we look at the 5-year average of 46 million acres versus 49.8 here today. So again, just another prime example of getting your orders out there and working. We did see quite a bit of volatility on the day. Once again, here today, we did not only close the week, but again, also we closed out a quarter. So on to the next one. But when we take a look and see what the actual futures ranges were for the week here, if we again take a look at new crop and start with corn on the left-hand side of your screen, we can see that the weekly range was 19 cents. But by the time that the dust settled here for today, the weekly change was actually up 6 cents on the week. Soybeans, on the other hand, had a weekly range of 64 cents, pretty big range there, and actually was able to hold on to 46 cents of that weekly range for a net gain. Next up, if we take a look at Kansas wheat had a weekly range of 49 cents, and the weekly change was a positive 23 cents on the week. And next up, if we take a look at Chicago wheat, we see the weekly range there was 43 cents as well, but we're only able to hold on to 5-cent gain once the dust settled here today. Finally, we'll take a look at Minneapolis. Minneapolis actually closed fairly strong today. The weekly range was a 42 cent range, and the change we actually were able to hold on to 40 cents. So pretty good close here today in Minneapolis, and really based upon what the potential plannings are going forward. So again, just another prime example of the importance of getting your orders out there and working to make sure that you are ready for when these knee-jerk reactions happen in the markets, especially with all the volatility that we're seeing here this week. We do have a lot of weather that we're going to continue to build into the markets as we move forward. So again, get a hold of your local Columbia Grain merchandiser, get your orders out there and working. That's pretty much it for the week here today and the quarter. So we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up. Remember, get a hold of your local Columbia Grain merchandiser, and remember, the market is not logical, it's psychological. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk with you next week.